All right, good to go.
Okay, order hold forward. Bring the meeting to order. We'll start with roll call. Dave.
Here.
Robert.
Here.
Brent. Here. Carol, I don't see Carol. John.
Yo.
Warren present. Bill. Don't see Christine. Todd.
Here.
Pete. Here. And I don't see Tracy. Okay, first order on the agenda is approval of minutes from the last meeting. So everybody read over those. Motion, John?
Aye.
Second?
Second.
Yes. All right, that brings us, oh, yeah. What I want
Favor.
in favor of the approval?
Aye.
Okay, that brings us to the initial testing results. George, I'm assuming you have had time to put all those results into a format?
We've also tested some points down there off of what I call Peninsula Drive. In the big 120,000 cubic area, but that is not included in this. It's just what I went after in the last couple of weeks. In this, I've also included a map where I took those readings from. For instance, if you look at Riviera, test point 3 failed selenium in the column.
Is that just north of the boat ramp?
Hmm,
Is that just north of the boat ramp?
correct. Right when you're getting in the north edge of the park, and it also failed in the base. Or excuse me, I'm sorry, that's test point 4. So test point 3 just failed selenium in the column. Test point 4 in the base failed arsenic.
George.
Yes.
The number on the top, does it have to be less than?
It has to be less than those numbers. That number there is the high number that they want us to be below. And that's parts per million. So we were high on arsenic in test point 4 in the base, which is what we're going to expose. And also in selenium. And then test point 5,
Yes, sir.
arsenic was pretty darn high, double in the column, so that's going down to the base.
I think I did.
The base was clear, which is, I think, possibly a good thing. Selenium was high, and zinc was very high also in the column, not in the base.
Did they tell you where in the column?
It's just someplace on the way down.
We have a base for column 5.
I do, but it passed.
You're only showing us the ones that is
I'm
failed.
just showing what failed.
And on the bottom, it says 47 test points with 6 fails, and these are the 6 fails,
Correct.
essentially.
Birch, we only had 1 fail, and it was in the column again, which was selenium, which is 650. Not too bad. PAR was all clear. Outlaw D was all clear. Again, these maps are attached here if you want to see where those test points were. South was a little different. Test point 1, which is way up in the corner. It's the only place we had any test for copper. It was at 38,000. And again, that's the column. And it has selenium of 470 against parts per million of 410, so it's not terrible. The base of test point 1, which is that same point, It's 460 in selenium, so selenium's a little heavy in that corner. Test point 5, we had 23,000 in arsenic in the column and 40,000 in lead.
Wow.
So I don't know if somebody dropped their tackle box there or what.
Somebody duck hunting there? Those wrong bullets, maybe?
But you can reference the points that these are on the attached maps. Just to get an idea of where we were with these. And odd. That's the way these test results kind of go. It's nothing, nothing, all of a sudden you got something at once.
It's right out in front of the beach, the one beside lead. Oh, there's gonna be something foreign in there.
It's possible. It's just to the west of the beach. Well, I take that back. It wouldn't be west of the beach. It was where the new boat flips start. Right in that area, in between the beach and the first boat.
Good job, George.
You
Thank you.
did have tests for,
The Vieira.
Peninsula Drive. That had been tested. No.
I tested, John and I went out, and that's where we talked about with Brent getting the pontoon,
Mhm.
in the rowboat. And we tested 12 points out there, so there's 24 tests. Straight north of the peninsula, basically.
And those been sent to.
Those have been sent in, yes. I've got them with me, but I didn't put them on this sheet. We had two test points fail there, one way at the west and one way at the east.
And what were they found for?
The one at the west was arsenic and the one at the east was selenium.
How far back?
Oh, I don't
Broad
know.
range?
I don't know. I could look here real quick.
Do we have a determination on what they're gonna say? Leave that point alone or don't touch any of it or?
No, I'm told that that decision isn't made at his desk. So it's gonna be above him. Arsenic at test point 2, excuse me. Yeah, test point 2 was 5,900,
So just barely above.
just barely. And test point 7 was arsenic at 6,000 and selenium at 570. We had 3 show up on that.
Five says slip. And it's supposed to be 410.
Supposed to be 410, correct.
2 was right out in front of the peninsula.
And that actually, that one there. Test point 7 is that's a base test that failed. So that's what we're exposing when we dig out everything above it.
And that's the west end of it.
Cause what we're digging out above it passed. So we're exposing that bottom piece. And that's what they may look at, I'm thinking, when they glean through these things. What we're gonna be, not only what we're taking out, of course, how bad is it, but
I'm just wondering if we have, you know, like the one for lead, how there's nothing that's double.
Yeah.
I was wondering if they consider that an anomaly, they want you to retest. So this is your test, apply it here. To retest. Around that, test more air, I test more holes
they will tell us.
in that area.
I don't know.
It just
Oh.
seems funny that there's 2 that are way higher, nothing else anywhere in that
Yeah.
whole area.
I agree.
Problem with the state is we're shooting at a moving target, because I'll tell you one thing. Last year, this year, they'll tell you something entirely different.
What's interesting is, like you said, that you can have. 100 feet away, something that fails, and then have completely nothing.
Right.
It's
That's
in
why,
the
I didn't-
same body of water, it's on the same lake bottom.
that's why I didn't know if Brian had that similar circumstance somewhere else, and so they, he can't say whether it passes or fails, but he can say that other permits, they had one that was crazy out of range. and everything else was, did they have, what was the protocol? I didn't know if you guys had talked about that.
I do know that when I did Riviera, it was 2 years ago now, that I think it was the test point 5 failed. And I thought, same thing, I got me wrong, nothing else. So I went back and I pulled a new standard, submitted it and came back almost the same. So in that respect, I know that wasn't an anomaly, it's actually there.
You hit that spot twice, and that same spot is there.
Pretty darn close, you want to do 5 foot circle,
Right.
you know.
Wonder how much of that might be a hole and little wells and stuff. There are wells across there on the other side.
Well, what Tim was telling us last time is that selenium happens around wells or oil fields or something.
It's a petroleum byproduct.
Petroleum byproduct, that's what it was.
Right. That, and I wonder if they average it. You got 48,000, but you got 5 test sites all within 500 feet. Average is a lot less than
If you
48,000.
take 47 tests for arsenic and 2 fail, you know, we're 96% good,
Yeah,
you know, so that's the way I look at it.
Well, remember, the only one I know of that's doing dredging right now is Wall Lake, so it might pay you to call them, say, hey, how's the state handling this stuff? And get a feel for what they're doing. They had a test too, I'm sure.
so the process now is this goes to,
I would take, for instance, we talked about possibly getting our feet wet, literally, in Birch late this year, early next year, so it's viewable from the road. I would take this data, the Birch data only, and write a permit against that, and then draw out the schematics and what we intend to take. Then you calculate your volume, you know, just like a regular permit from that. So you gotta take pictures of crossroads and of where you wanna do it. So that would be, I guess, driven from this committee.
Be a good way to get.
You know, there is a cost to that, of course, too.
ours too, no matter, ours clear.
The bar's clear and outlaw D's clear. Yes, sir.
Line D is clear.
Yeah.
Could be.
I mean, everybody.
Not you.
Why would it shut off? So that bay, George. We looked at it, measured it, and we changed it around. And we were under the 10,000.
We're 96, I believe.
99.50 somewhere, so.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I don't remember if how much we trimmed, all the mats we have are,
This one I'm looking at says 11,000.
right, that was the first time.
That was
I went certain distance.
really one.
all the way around.
Well, I would think we would want to,
Well, for
because of the margin of error. When you're out there
Mhm.
dredging, that kind of stay below that pretty good.
That would be my suggestion, because it could be deeper in areas than you thought, and then I'd rather.
Stay around 9, and if you get an extra scoop out, oh well.
So we may wanna, if that's a bay we wanna start with. And can afford to start with. We may wanna. Trim that or actually mark it a little better than we did off on the
So we're
side.
gonna have to.
Right,
We're gonna, once the lake gets down, go out and walk the perimeter where we can walk, stake it. So you can shoot it with like a rangefinder,
Mhm.
so then you know exactly how many yards it is across. And, heck, right now, I could actually shoot the buoy that's out there, the no wake buoy from the dock. We're not actually going that far, but and get a good idea what that distance is. Because we don't need to go to the sides. I wanna grade that once we get it clean, but we're probably 100 feet, 80 feet from shore on either side before we start getting into any kind of sediments.
Correct.
So once they get down, then we
That
can
may-
get accurate.
You're supposed to, and I think we're. Below that, I can redo that, I can get a measurement from the map that I tried to use for, a starting point. And tell you, this was X amount of feet from shore.
Yeah.
Based off that satellite, if I'm at 50, the number could drop even farther.
Because I think we'll probably average, in there, we'll probably average about 18 to 24 inches as an average.
Well, I'm sure it'd be deeper in the center and
And then
shoreline goes up.
Shoreline goes up, that's correct.
Less. Great.
On Birch, you're gonna be deeper towards where that little Springer Creek comes in, so, cause it's gonna be sediment flowing down in there too, so that not gonna have to come out there. Towards the west end of it.
So the process of that, we have to be in estimates that much.
We have rough estimates per
Yeah, but I mean,
cubic yard, but. It depends on trucking, I mean, this would
Right.
be more or less than somewhere else because.
right,
Here you have a road going to the ranch, it's cheaper. But
Well,
right there.
weren't we gonna put Birch over there in that? And Tim's gonna have to help me out with the name of that park, but it's one over there off of north of Queensway with that big hollow in there. By where the village owns property, it's north of Queensway on it, in that side road.
Oh,
there's a
in that
part
big
there.
ravine up there,
Yeah, there's a big hollow in there, big.
up there off of
I'm gonna
Hyperion.
throw a bunch of dirt in there, and it wouldn't get fire off. What you talking about that one time?
It came up. It's certainly not my recommendation to go
I
there.
never,
It's probably a water course.
The objection that I would put before the committee to that is you're close to people's houses there, and they're not gonna particularly appreciate the odor of lake bottom dredging in their
but
backyard.
even from Birch, down through and down, not far
Well,
from the site and baseline.
we do have an opportunity there to pick it up to, Tarandago Park, I believe it's called, where the old tennis courts are. Because they made, I call them borrow pits. And they dug big trenches when they filled up the swimming pool, whenever that happened. And then they left little paths between them so you could drive around them, but they're like giant sausages. Half
We're
like,
having a lot more to swimming pool with the dirt.
and, oh, I know, but we could take some of
We
it
could
there.
lose a lot of dirt in that park.
Very, very big part.
That again, that's got houses all the way around.
Well, it's, it is, but it isn't, they're kind of. Pretty far away from the house, it ain't like you're dumping in their backyard.
So you got your testing results back. I think we need to discuss what, obviously, I think we're somewhat in agreement on Birch just because it's a public launch. It's targeted as one of the priorities for access to the water. It's a good place for people to see how this process plays out. Do we want to, as a group, send this entire test off and see what the state has to say, or do we want to try one, because that's all we can afford to do right now? Or maybe we can't afford that.
Well, if you throw a calculator to it, if it was 9,600 cubic yards times 13 cubic dollar, or 13 bucks a cubic yard, it's $120,000 or something.
Yeah.
And we don't have that between us anyway. But that's where Tim said maybe we could take the loan out from the village funds if the council approves it, as long as we pay it back with the money that comes in off the first run of the taxes.
We might be able to do like right where the bowl ramp is too, just dredge that part out like this year.
That would be part of
We're
it.
gonna do a phase two, cause you're testing, once we get the permit, we have 5 years, right?
That's correct.
So we're gonna do Birch Park the next 5 years, we know that.
I just worry that if you do it in phases, your cost
Reducing the cost. Yeah. Per unit.
If they have to transport those
Those test
here.
points are close enough to that dock area that you could scoop that.
No, but what I'm saying is we train, if whoever is our low bidder and qualified low bidder. Brings all their equipment here and sets up and does that,
You wanna get
to
it
do
done,
it twice, it's gonna raise.
you wanna get it done.
But. I certainly think it makes more sense to do Birch to me than it does Par is a small one, and you can fit it in the budget. Part of the way you can see that,
D, but well, par and D would fit in the budget, both of them together. But are those
I would say par.
really worth
Yeah, I would
going
say
after?
Birch.
And I'm
At
for
this
Birch,
time.
you know, as far as the public impact, if we could pull it off and make it happen. You know, accordingly, like you said, via money from the village,
you know, whatever.
or does it have to happen in the first year? You know, we've always been aware that we're not gonna collect our first round until next September plus.
Right?
And so we know that is happening.
Well, we're gonna have a little lead time, put it out for bid, getting the permits back.
That's correct.
I mean,
I don't think you're gonna get one done this year anyway, like Birch. The time you get your bid proposal out, get your bids back, get your permit back,
you might get par down by spring. You might get par down
we
with
have a lot
water
of
down.
time to work and it's freezing.
So,
But it'd be a good idea to go ahead and get
Testing part
the
done,
testing done to get a
and
permit.
then the permit part done, yeah.
I'd say definitely get a
Well,
permit for Birch.
That'll also give us the definitive answer on how they're gonna handle the overage on the testing points too.
Well, especially Birch isn't, is not terrible compared to some of the others, but, yeah, we see how they handle selenium. Well, and it is in the column. It's not on the bottom, so.
Maybe they want the column gone, but they may have to have 20 places to put it, causes.
Well, that's what,
That's what you're gonna run into, I think, is any of those column samples that have metals. You're gonna be looking at either a deed restricted disposal or a landfill disposal, is my thought at this point.
yeah, exactly. I
what
agree.
does that mean for your baseline area to the village?
Other awesome, I don't think.
Now, if you
That
put
would
it in
probably
that,
fall within the deed restricted type, wouldn't it, really?
if
So
you
that may or may
put
not.
the dirt in that, those.
For us, if we're gonna use our property, yeah, like. It would not concern me if we were to haul it and have to deed restrict something that we.
Our own property.
Right. Likewise with us in down South Park, that flatland, that low area on the west end of South Park. That's spongy, stays spongy all year. To put the South Park spoils there. Because it's. If you look at south, it's got some, copper. And,
Okay, everything.
Do we
Yeah.
know how they're gonna treat that though? You got one column that didn't pass in rear, oh, I'm looking at Riviera. Where am I? I guess that's it, Birch, right? I was looking at the wrong one. But I mean, did they just, if that's just one test point, does that mean everything around it's okay?
Yeah.
You know,
That's right now, I think that's what.
yeah. So I mean,
Should Guy Save
So we
answer
could
this
do
for us maybe a little
2/3
bit?
of it and-
He deals with the, Guy Save on it, that gave us a quote on Riviera, he deals with these permitting situations within his realm
true,
of work, maybe he could answer that question. And say, if you have one bad one and 10 good ones, what's been happening recently?
that's
Yeah.
good, that's a good, like, I'll do that, that's a good idea, because. On some of the other projects they've done it lock, stock and barrel, the permitting.
Right.
Everything, the testing. So, of course,
But he's involved,
the,
and
the
he,
cost goes up.
well, yeah, when he handles it all, it'll go up substantially, we're handling the administrative portion of it ourselves.
Correct,
You know, according to, you know, how he sets up his proposals and, he might have some good knowledge based on how Brian's gonna react or how the department above him is gonna
or how
react.
long it takes to get permits back.
Or that, he's got a lot of questions might be able to be answered at least at that level. You know, and then I guess my next question to you is, when these samples go through Brighton,
Mhm.
do we have sole responsibility of submitting them, and are we the controllers of the data after that, or is it submitted elsewhere from Brighton? Okay,
Just us.
The other thing is, if we have 8 spots, 1 fail, can we dig to 7, leave the 8th one alone? That's another question that need to be asked.
Yeah, but where does that eighth one start? You
Well,
know,
That's.
5 feet away, or is it just one?
Let him tell you that.
everybody's got questions about it, I think you just have to. We have to decide if you wanna send this whole test off to the state.
we have 5 years to do a permit. Once we get a permit, we have 5 years to do the work. We
My,
know Riviera is gonna be top one of the first few years, and we want Birch to be one of the first few years. I say, put a permit in for Birch and Riviera, and let them tell us whether you can do it or not.
these ones you have listed.
That's
out
what's
here
gonna
first,
tell
you
us.
have-
I think that's gonna be a good place to start right
Did I see
there.
before you had a total of how many
Then we'll
cubic
know where
yards
we're
it
at.
was? For these total,
Did I have what now?
total of the cubic yards for the ones we tested, if those areas were all approved, did you have those listed somewhere? A total of cubic yards for just the ones you got tested?
Yes. Well, off of your,
Off the map, preliminary map.
Yeah.
So if you took those, you know what that number was, times your 13 to see how many gallon bills we have? Is it even feasible if we did get these all approved to do all these in 5 years? I don't wanna apply for the permit and find out in 5 years we didn't have enough money to do everything on this list, I have to do it again.
well, you don't have to do it again. Once it's in there, you can extend it. Once it's approved. And I don't know what kind of bureaucracy you go through to extend it, but if you have an open permit that's getting ready to close. For instance, like our drawdown, I resubmitted it. Made a couple phone calls.
As long as we can do that, I don't care, I just don't wanna have to go back and retest it again.
No,
on year
no,
five.
the testing is good for 10.
Okay, okay.
The permit's good for 5. So these test results we got in front of us are good for almost the duration of this project.
So, for that thought, I mean, we can put this to a vote,
Well,
but I don't,
I think we have to be careful about how many, if we put it in as separate projects. Because I don't want them to lump it all into one permit. But now you got another layer of bureaucracy to deal with.
that's something else you can ask Guy too. They had to do that, if they allowed them to do that.
Why don't we try Birch first? And keep it under the 10,000.
That's a good point. We kind of talked about that before.
Yeah, we gotta be
Well,
careful.
Tim
We
brought
don't
that
wanna
up.
go over 10,000 because then they'll say, okay, yeah, we'll approve all those, but
You gotta go do some more
now there's
testing.
some more things you have to do.
Yeah.
Because we're treating it as one permit, one project. We don't want that. We want
The one thing that I would
small projects, several, not just one big one.
point out,
Because then we go to the federal
You
government.
request a permit for Riviera. you
Right,
Request a permit for Birch. you
right.
Request a permit for Bar, et cetera.
But we don't want them to say, well, they're all, okay, we'll put them all together. Cause that was one of the cautions we had, wasn't it, Tim?
on your testing for Riviera, were all these close to shore?
No,
No, okay.
they're all out in the middle. We're not,
Well,
I mean, they're all out like
that's
25,
0.5
30
is
feet.
close to shore.
Hmm?
That's 0.5 in Riviera is close to shore.
Oh, relative, it's all close to each other, the river's not that.
Well, I asked
No,
because,
I'm sorry, that's where I marked them, where I put stakes in, the dots.
Oh.
Where dots on
Where'd
that,
you take the sample from?
out in the middle.
Oh, okay.
That
Gotcha.
is deceiving, you're right.
I thought that's where you took them from.
well, my concern, because the proposal that you got from Savin, shows more of that area being impacted by the proposal that they put in. Do we have the samples that match up with the proposed area that they were gonna look at?
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is showing them all close to shore, and they were,
that's just the way when I went out and drove my stakes and marked test point 1, Riviera, 2, Riviera, all
So you went
that.
out
Use the shoreline.
And I
straight
marked,
to the middle.
I marked the shore where I put the stakes.
Okay.
So, but I was out in the middle of it.
That's weird, that's the only spot, really. 2 spot, 4 and 5. And that's on the park. That just seems.
Right on the edge of the park.
Yeah, it just seems odd.
Yeah.
Well, until we can get definitive answer from their bureaucracy, we should probably at least get one in and get it going to see what they're gonna come back with as far as ramifications.
So with the funds that Tim is alluded to, we could have fast forwarded and paid back.
Well, you've got $40,000 of ARPA money that's not gonna be repaid back. So that was, the council approved that at their August meeting.
Right.
You know, we have just over 40,000 left in our American Rescue Plan Act dollars. You know, we move them all over to this project, so you've got 40 that doesn't have to get paid back. One of the things I was working on today is, you know, our tax bills go out July 1. You know, I was looking at end of the month collection points in terms of what percentage have we collected historically at each month. You know, at the end of July, it's like 17%. At the end of August, it's about 60%. By the end of September, that's up to the mid 80s. You know, by the end of the year, you're a little over 90% of what you know, have budgeted historically, so. Keeping that in mind as you look at going forward in the project, that, you know, it's not like July 1, you've got $300,000 next year. You've got, you know, that coming in over the next 3 months is gonna get you at 280 roughly. You know,
Including the 40 or plus the 40?
plus the 40. So that, I was looking at just millage capture.
So there's potential by the end of,
320.
yeah, 320,000 will be our first
Easy.
year.
Yeah.
And 12 months, was actually a little more than 12
Get
months.
into Riviera as soon as possible.
Total 5 years. So we didn't get at 13, so it's 100,000 yards.
But Riviera is got, can be done at full. We can do that.
That's 100,000.
Well, I'm
At
sure,
full
but yes,
pool.
yeah.
See, I figured we'd probably wanna, or try to do Riviera, which it's a summertime job in 25. Something like that.
Yeah.
Even though it's up there on the priorities, we gotta do it when the lake's up.
But if you're gonna do it in 25, you're gonna use the money you collected in 24. Which
Yes.
means you don't do anything in 24 either. And I think that becomes a problem with the residents. They've all paid on their taxes and now there's nothing happening. I mean, it's happening, but they're not seeing it, they're not seeing a shovel in the ground. And I think,
Is that in Birch One that you do a phase 1 and a phase 2, so that you've got that equitable work being done? You know, you do it over 2 or 3 years through the totality of those areas, but you know, you're spreading that wealth around, so everybody's getting a bite of the pie this time.
I don't think it's the
That's gonna be tough.
most economical, the best use of the funds financially, just because it does drive the cost higher, but.
You know, if we looked at 180,000 total cubic yards in the entirety of the project millage, if you did the 3 mills for the full 12 years, you're gonna end up collecting right around $4 million. So you're looking at an end number of $22.10 per cubic yard is what, when all said and done, this project has to come in at or below. And that's the entire cost, permit, dig it, dispose it.
I see that $13 climbing every year as the cost of everything.
Well, $13 is only the getting it out part.
I mean, so.
Yeah.
You're not gonna have a surplus of money with everything. It's not.
well, Brent, you said you'd talked to some of your people that you knew down there to do the peninsula job. And because they're just thinking straight out, to the DPW, and didn't you say they could do that for like 13 or 14?
Yeah, that's what Brad said, that was his estimate, that's when we talked about it, but,
And that included the hauling.
you know, and bulldozing and like finishing
Everything.
it at the haul spot on the
Yeah.
baseline. That's the whole ball of wax for them, but, you know, Riviera is gonna cost more than that. you
Oh,
know.
yeah.
Well,
Riviera's, the quote I got from the official quote was 356, I believe.
And it says, how many yards, 12,000?
What is it? I think it was 12, it was either 12 or 14.
I can get Brad out there, you know, if we're okay, we can get vendors out there this winter to look at it, you know, if we have a good drawdown this fall. we can take some people out there to walk it and, you know, start getting those early conversations done.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to, just have a starting point.
Well,
All of this stuff.
they have to, truly, they gotta see it.
Right.
So it's,
At least do some brain picking.
I know Mally's, are definitely interested and Harshes would be interested.
McGirt called me, I was gonna cover this in the comments before, but we didn't cover it. I got a call a week or two ago from someone at McGirt wanting to know where the bid documents are gonna be for the project. It's kind of laughed, like, you're like a year out, man, like,
At least they're thinking.
yeah. Like, we haven't even collected a dime yet, we won't for another year, so. And then we had another group of people last night or yesterday at the office want dirt for their lot when it becomes available too, so I mean, that seems to be a fairly common inquiry we're getting, so.
Right, so. We need to start moving on to purchasing and policy discussions, but. As a group. What do we want to send to Brian? For Brian's office at this point?
At least Birch. And I'd say Riviera too.
I think you gotta stay under 10,000 yards though, right? Or it's the major.
And I share.
right, that's why I took
You
seven,
know, they're all-
that's why I took 7 at Riviera. It was over 10,000.
So you're. At Birch. You had one slinger that was barely over at 10.3.
Why don't we start off?
Pretty straight in the middle.
Well, it's kind of over by the boat, behind the boats on the north side there.
So do we want to? Break Birch in two, or I could do some more. Math or Brent can on Onyx
Mhm.
and narrow down, get 100 feet from shore. On that map. And see what it comes out to,
At 18 inches or 24 or something.
right? I think we figured it out at 18, I believe was where I started from. But we think if we truly went 100 feet from all those edges. Maybe it's 8,000 for the whole thing.
Yeah.
So if you want, I can do that tomorrow, try to find out exactly how far I was from each shoreline. On that map, and I could redo that map there and recalculate where it is. If you want to send that out, if you get that done tomorrow and say, okay. Instead of being 10,000, it was 8,400, they give you
Full buffer in there.
a bit of a buffer, not a lot, but gives you a buffer. And then send Burke out and see what the state has to say, because it does have that one sliding number that's slightly above
Yeah.
where it should be. Need to vote on that, Tim?
Probably a decent idea.
So. Make a motion, I guess, to send Burke off after we do a calculation in square foot, that's under 10,000 or 10 cubic yards, excuse me. It's under 10,000 cubic yards. To send that out to the state for permitting.
Second.
All in favor?
All in favor, aye? Okay, motion passes. Okay, so we're gonna start with Burke. I'll do my math either tonight or in the morning. Get that back to you as quick as I can.
I'm concerned with lumping together, I'm along with Dave on that, but if we send them out at 3-month intervals, that shouldn't. happen.
Or,
Think.
you know, the other thought
State address or all the pop up.
I had on that too is it feasible to go back to Savin and say, can you rework your proposal? Do 2 phases and you do the permit? Cause
It's worth it, it's worth
that may be
finding
an
out
end
what
around,
the
if they're doing the permit on that. That it goes a different way, you understand what I mean?
Yeah, and, because they're gonna have to do it they gotta bring a barge in.
Yeah,
Their setup, inlay pipe, honestly, and a pump station, their setup is gonna be different than anything else we're dealing with.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that costs because it's a setup, tear down. Well, it's tear down probably, and then a setup again the next year.
Yeah.
so. But I can sure ask them, cause I'm gonna call it, so. So we could start like at the south end of the Riviera project and move north towards the island. Open it up at the south end.
That's when you.
Take it all in boat slips back.
Yes, well, but yeah, they kind of come around that corner, but yeah.
Yeah, the launch open, that open.
That's the thing, Larry and I were talking, we don't know. When we get that launch exposed, we don't even know what it looks like. So, cause it's buried.
You know, is that something you could get a permit just for the launch? And we could clean out around that with the backhoe, you know, just to expose the launch. Clean that out.
Well, if we have to rebuild it, like, just like what we did at Birch. Birch required the permit because it was below 895. Likewise, this would be below 895. If we can expose it and it looks good, and that's the thing I was questioning as well. If we do expose it and it's bad, does it fall underneath the dredge project?
Yeah, that's what it looks like when the water's down.
Yeah, but we don't know I don't know how far out it goes or anything either, so.
Yes, I mean, if you can get a clean out permit for there, we could get the backhoe out on that and clean out the launch area itself, so you get that exposed, so you know what the condition of the launch is
To
in.
the left there stays running, winter, summer, whatever, to the left, that is a flipping mud plant.
Yeah.
You got the same thing in South Park.
Yeah. You know, we got out on South Park in the winter. We went out and fixed the boat launch in the winter there.
That's right. We
I'm
did.
saying about where the pontoons
Yeah.
are on Peninsula Drive, that ground never
Yeah.
gets hurt. And that's why I thought your copper test would be high, because all the stone and stuff are copper, and they're orange, there's definitely copper coming out of
I
there.
wonder how far out that goes. You think that's the last section right there, Tim? I don't know.
It's gotta be close, you know, and if you can see that there's you can see it dropped off, this pad is dropped off right here.
Oh, yeah.
You got this joint here, you got this joint, probably that joint. I'm thinking right there is probably the end.
It could be the end right there. They added another piece maybe. At some point.
Is that the new decking or concrete we got up there, or is that the old?
This is at Riviera Park.
This is Riviera.
And it's interesting,
That's the river.
it's shifted to the south.
So this is South Park. And we went in the winter
Building the
and
hole
filled in that hole.
back already.
It's back. I mean, we can do it again.
That's a little hard to.
Yeah, but we pushed it out too.
Yeah.
I put 5 feet or 6 feet flat across the bottom too, to push that hole away from it.
That's a side profile there of Riviera.
Yeah,
If you use your backhoe, Tim, how do we compensate the village for any of that?
You know. You didn't when we fixed the launch of South Parks. We're demolished.
Yeah, that was a half an hour ordeal, so this could be bigger.
could be, yeah. Just don't fall off of that boat launch, that concrete, cause it'll get stuck.
Yeah, I mean, that's my only concern on that is it's relatively narrow. I'm gonna be putting pads down probably outside the,
Yeah, your outriggers would have to be down there.
yeah,
Better be semi-dry before you do that.
that would be a preferred winter one, but. You know,
Okay, so we have our testing going out. Do your map either tonight or in the morning, George.
Okay, you'll do the math. I'll start on the permit.
I'll send out a group email that says this is how the drawing came. I'll try to put numbers.
Now, will you do, the side diagram of everything, the top, that shows the dish? Where the current bottom is?
I have no idea how deep that's gonna be. I'm just gonna tell you the surface area. I'm gonna
Okay.
multiply it.
All right, then I'll do
for
that
18
part.
inches, 18 inches. That'll be 18 all over the edge, so.
I can get you depths on all your test points here, tonight, when I go for that test. They'll tell me the depth and stuff on my screen.
Actually, if you could, because I know. Based on how far I had to put the wand in the water too,
Okay,
to have approximately.
Here's one other question I have, George.
And then.
Would the permit be better coming from a contractor that does it on a regular basis, or would it be better coming from the entity that's
Not
lost or the village?
We'll do it through dock space.
Which is the DNR find more palatable?
That's a hard question to answer.
I don't
It
know.
really matters.
I think
They
it's,
got rules, the rules will apply to everybody.
Well, if we get shut down on Birch, then we submit Riviera, maybe we go have Savin and submit that one.
That's
See how that
the
goes.
answer.
I still think you should call Guy
Well, I will.
tomorrow and say, hey, you know, if I were to have you do my paperwork, you know, do my test, fill out all my forms. You've been doing this for years. You're not gonna make a mistake on the paperwork and find out what that would cost. Even if he's not the person that wins the contract. But I'm sure he's going to get paid something, or maybe if he does get the contract. Maybe he doesn't get paid for that particular test. If he gets, let's say he does outlaw D. He submits or whatever, you know, whatever park area it is, he submits the paperwork and gets approved. Maybe he doesn't pay us for his testing if he gets the contract to do the dredging.
You could bear in the price.
Yeah.
We did something similar when we did the building here. We did a design build for this project here when we built the village hall. And we used JBS to do all the construction drawings and prints and plans, and our agreement said, you know, if you aren't selected, we will compensate you X amount for this work that has been done. Yeah, you know, if you are, you know, that's part of your bid.
I'm assuming he does mechanical dredging too, or has means to do so.
I don't know. I've never approached him with that. Okay. Just the hydraulic.
Let's cross that bridge tomorrow and give me that information, or give the board that information, what you have to say, and that'll give us a lot.
Yeah, because once I get your more of a detailed drawing, then I can actually start calculating what we're really looking at.
What's the application fee on the permit? The 5?
But
Then we can pay for that out of the 40 grand if you
it's
want.
an individual permit, if I remember right.
Just send it over to us and we'll cut the check for it. When it comes time to do it.
Yeah, because I just get it, you know, pay for it online when you submit. And then you get the receipt back. So,
We'll pay for it on my credit card.
well, that's what I do. I pay for it on credit card.
Where you guys on vacation? In the mayor miles or what?
But now,
Use my credit card.
Pay for on the village's credit card.
on the association's credit card.
You can use Dave, he's a big shot.
We got the testing discussion done, we decided we're gonna send out Birch. Let's move on to the purchasing and bidding policy. Did you have a sample in here, Tim, of what the village uses?
So in your packet, last night, the village council adopted a resolution that exempts this group from our purchasing policy procedures, provided that this group adopts their own.
Right.
That's important because, you know, once we start to collect millage money, that money is gonna have to be budgeted in the same way as all other public funds that come through the organization. So for example, the fiscal year that we currently are in is the first year that we have the road patrol millage. So our budget in the village has, you know, 207 is its own fund that's got road patrol revenue and the expenditures. We're July 1 fiscal, so as we get towards that point next year, we're going to have a budget from this committee that looks at what revenue we're gonna collect and how we're gonna spend it for that document. But in terms of how you guys handle those dollars, in terms of who's the authorized disbursement agent, who, you know, what threshold for bidding, you know, what are the conditions that you want to look at for waiving bidding? That's a policy document that this committee is empowered to determine for itself at this point in time. You know, we have a bid policy for, you know, anything over 3,000, 3 to 6, I'm supposed to get competitive prices for, but I'm authorized to pull the trigger on. Over that, you know, we can go out for bid, there's exemptions in there, you know, like, for example, last night the council approved a new plow. And it was $7,550. Well, it's over that $6,000 limit, but there's no reason to competitively bid that because it's part of a state contract and we're gonna get the same price. Whether we go from Hudson or whoever, you know, so we carve that exemption out for ourselves, that we don't have to bid it out if we know there's no competitive advantage to bid. You know, or if there's extenuating circumstances like we've got all of our equipment purchased from, you know, Allen's equipment. You know, we're gonna continue to go with Allen's because they're the service provider as well. We're not gonna buy a, you know, Komatsu that we can't get service for a project when we know the service dealer is local that only services these brands, so. All of those are relevant things to look at and think about in the policy. You know, because like, you know, the call from McGurk, you know, are we gonna bid these out, you know? And how that's gonna work, so. You know, things that I think would make sense when we get down the road and looking at projects are. Potentially looking at just like a fixed quantity, like bid price. Or a project area bid price, so we'll bid out, here's the work for Birch Park, and it's gonna be between 10 and 12,000 cubic yards. Give us a lump sum. Or give us a lump sum price for X amount of yards that you're gonna come and pull out, you know, during the winter, and that's what you're gonna hold you to, and. You know, if we go over that, we can talk about a price for quantity over that amount, have like a $10,000 or 10,000 yard or 20,000 yard.
I think you have to have a base and then.
Yeah.
How much per cubic yard.
You know, where it gets a little bit complicated that we're gonna have to think through a little bit too is, you know, what happens if we have bad weather? You know, those are act of God conditions in a bid contract.
The lake, like some years the lake don't go down,
Mhm.
it's raining and raining and raining, still don't go down.
Yep.
Can't start it.
Then the bid becomes null and void because it's got an expiration date on it and they don't want, if they're not gonna do it this year. They don't know prices are gonna be next year for them either, right?
Yeah, you can't hold.
You can't hold them.
You can't hold either side of the stop.
Correct.
Right.
Which also, I don't think in good faith can ask someone to bid and not be able to guarantee they're gonna get a job too.
Right.
So there's some nuances in this process that we're gonna need to think through. Thankfully, we've got time to do it. You know, it's not like we've got $300,000 today to spend, you know, we've got a year basically. That year
It's
probably.
not your first rodeo, you've had things up a bit before, so it should be kind of smooth.
It should,
The weather's gonna be your biggest factor.
the
but
weather's the biggest factor.
You can't,
It is in all construction.
yeah, you can't go into it and say, hey, it rained and. You know, we didn't get as many cubic yards today as we thought we were going to, now we're gonna fix you for a change order.
Yeah.
Just can't play that game.
But that's written right into the contract, you hold harmless after X amount of bad weather, like X amount.
Plus, we wanna be able to budget for the future because we can't, you know, we're not getting all $3 million at once.
Right.
We gotta budget for, okay. Let's save this much this year so we can do something else next year.
Correct.
We don't wanna have to stop for a year because we don't have money.
You know, and this committee is gonna obligate funds for years in advance where you don't have cash in hand.
Right.
You know, You're gonna look at a project like the south end of the lake and say, we're gonna give you a 4-year contract and we're gonna expect this amount to come out each year.
Right.
You know, and we're gonna pay you in those installments. We're not gonna pay you for the full amount up front.
Right.
I wouldn't rule out voluntary alternates from these guys. I mean, if we set forth. You know, a criteria of how we see things done. And somebody else has a different idea that can save us.
Sure.
A bunch of money, and
100%.
that wouldn't hamstring them. They got an idea that saves us money.
Yep.
And they're not obligated to share it with the rest of their competition. If they had a better idea, it's good on them. As long as it matches our wish list.
You know, and that. You know, do you bid it out with? We've got a permit to remove X amount of dirt. And it's gotta go to this location. You come up with a plan that puts A and B together.
Maybe they have a location.
Yeah. I think you're gonna have to have a location to get your permit.
Yeah, But but they may be able to say,
Give us added locations.
Sure.
we can put it at these two locations, which are closer, which saves you trucking fees. And let them handle, you know, whatever they have to do to get there. I wouldn't say no to that, as long as we get it approved.
Well, I think what'll end up happening in this, if these fails, for instance, they would come back and tell us that they need addendums written to the permit. And that addendum would be to add a place that has a restricted covenant or deed on it, where that can't ever change hands, can't do anything there, anything else.
Well, I'm gonna tell you both.
As a-
these guys
as a
are doing that.
second
All the
submission.
waste dirt somewhere that's been contaminated, they've got a place that they go to with it. Yeah. They have to. I mean, we're not unique in that
No,
area.
no,
How close to our retention basin over there to the river itself? I mean, could we put contaminated caca over there?
They're gonna put poop over there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's got a clay base and everything, yeah. It's been
It's
engineered
close to the river.
for a septic, I mean, for a.
That's what a quarter miles from.
Is it a four one?
Less than that, it's.
But I mean, it's already been
Set up.
set up, engineered for that. Well, we wanna make the purchasing, or how we handle the budget as foolproof as possible. So that, because not all of us are gonna probably stay, I mean, it's 12-year project.
Yeah.
We're not all gonna be here probably,
Hey,
for various reasons. Might get tired of doing it, like some people are already.
Look at my direction.
The purchasing policy the village has, I think is a good starting point. And we can, you know, of course, you gotta change the names and the charter 2.4, we don't, we can change it. And I think we can work with this, cause it's a good starting point, And as far as the money amounts, I mean, even those aren't too bad,
Yeah, but even these amounts they have on here, Bill, are so small to
that's
us,
too small.
they're not gonna do anything, they're not gonna happen.
They're almost moved. It doesn't matter.
Unless you have a.
But still adopt it.
Whether it'll pay for, you could change those, but
Yeah.
even,
Uh,
and I would say like, for, a minimum of, say, $10,000, the chairman of the committee, you don't have to name him,
Yes.
and then when it switches, the chairman has the authority to spend up to this much, anything over that has to have the committee approval.
And that's the bid process
But
will
at
take
least
over
then
from there.
that way we get our own document to make the village satisfied that we're gonna take care of the money properly. But we have
Well,
to,
because the village has to cut the check and sign it.
right,
So we
They
need,
have to put it up a bid.
We're gonna be audited.
it's all your testing, George, and all your permits,
We're out of
I
it.
kinda need a range, or we should have a range. Where those are gonna fall, you said a permit is $5,000,
100.
500, okay, so. Those are the things that we should have to meet in the group to say, okay, we're gonna send. it.
Well, no, I mean, to me, that's an embedded or a sunk cost to do this. It has to be done right up front, and those kind of things right there probably don't, to me, don't need approval. You've already given me approval by telling me to do it and voting on it. Go write the permit for Birch, well, that's my approval, so. Bigger things, of course. But just this bottom work in the background stuff, I don't think necessarily needs to go through the committee.
No, I did, like I said, you have these numbers at 6,000 and 3,000. There's not a project in here that's gonna fall anywhere close to those numbers, so right on.
No. And so everybody knows too, like, this is our village council packet, it's on our website, every meeting council packet is on our website. Those packets have our full check register, so every check that gets cut is gonna be in that report. It contains a balance sheet, so. the balance sheet's gonna be in there. These are things that you guys are gonna get for your meetings as well, because you guys are gonna need to know the money part as well, but. You know, so you got our general fund, major, local, sewer, our fire withholding, and then the road patrol is its own fund. So we're gonna have another box here that's just the fund for this project here, because the millage money comes in, it's gotta be treated that way. You know, and then following that, we have the revenue expenditure report. So you know, we genuinely do try to show you how we spend your money. So, you know, every line item in our budget that has financial activity gets in that report that the council sees every month. It's on our website for everyone to see every month. So the money is gonna be very transparent.
It's just like our quick.
So to make the village happy that we have our own purchasing agreement or policy. If we doctor this up to fit us with our names, et cetera. That should satisfy you, the village. Or
So set by
We
our
have a
auditors more than
The
anything
auditors.
else. Our auditors. more than
auditors,
anything.
yeah.
Yeah, because this is a unique relationship what we're doing. And it's not completely unprecedented, where DDAs is an example I've used are, you know, part of a municipal organization, but they have their own fiduciary abilities to themselves. And that's what both the LIPO and the village have intended for this group to have. And doing that in a way that meets the legal obligations of public funds is all we're trying to ensure that we get done.
So like you're
To make
offering your hand to start work on this?
Yeah, that worked on it.
Well, do we have a secretary?
No, we don't have anything. We've got a chairman, is all we got.
That's all you got. You get a vice chair.
Maybe it's an idea, maybe we need a chairman and a treasurer, or not a treasurer, but or something for the committee. From the road.
I think you're the man for the job, Bill. Carol's an alternate. I think you're the man for the job.
You don't wanna give me.
All in favor, say aye.
I don't know. Be here.
I want to thank you for the long term.
That's right.
Here we go.
Sounds like a. You feel over there,
Every time you stick your head above the cloud, that's what happens.
comes the hammer.
I'll work on the policy.
You know, I'm just gonna
Get it. I'll get it good, book, pretty good for next, little over the next, by the next week.
Okay.
On that.
You want it in a Word doc?
Huh?
You want it in a Word document?
So,
You
yeah,
can do it at home,
How about, let me tell you right now, I don't even have a computer.
and he would do it on his phone.
Okay,
Okay.
I can,
Put it in a
I
Word
can
doc,
put
and
the red ink.
I can get with Bill and I can retype it.
Okay.
I can put the red ink in here for these, the changes.
not by and work
Cross
over
them out.
Tim's shoulder.
Yeah, then I can change that.
Change
Make it just look something that everybody can read besides me. Yeah, I can do that.
If you get your notes to George, I can swing by and grab it. And put them back in the Word doc and I can share it with the group. So you can make ongoing changes between meetings.
That's true, yeah, and I can scan it in and send it out to everybody too, so.
There you go. Do that.
I'll get working on it.
There you go.
Few days.
Okay, as far as work on our our purchasing discussion, do we want to talk about our bidding discussion at all? Or how many people we want to put in this, so Bill has an idea?
I put it open bid and I'd make sure they had bonded, that's all.
Well, I would think you want a minimum of two, but you're obligated, Tim, since this is public money, to put it in the paper or no?
We're only obligated to follow our policy.
Are you?
I will get to follow our policy.
So do we want to put this online and get contractors from other areas?
It will be online. I mean, if we're putting out a bid doc, our webpage has a whole page just for bids. They'll go there. And the minute it hits there, you're gonna hit the West Michigan Builders Exchange, because they have bots crawl websites to get that, so I mean, you know. We historically, for a big project, we'll put one ad in the Morning Sun and put it online, and then we will directly mail to, you know, pre-qualified people or firms that we are interested in, so, you know. Central Asphalt,
Well, I would think that, you know, the Isabella, Central, McGurk,
Yeah.
everybody in town would,
You know,
would want to at least think.
you know, we could even put feelers out this winter, that if you want to get put on that list, let us know, sign up. We'll do it all digitally.
So you can put that on the website, saying.
Put it on the website, yeah.
At some point, even in the next
Mhm.
6 months or whatever, we're gonna have a formal bid proposal.
Yeah.
Or RFQ, if anybody wants to be on that list, let us know.
Yeah, cause I can just create a form on our website, and just go to the website, fill out the form, and we'll get, you know, whatever information they want. And it's pretty simple and straightforward.
I would hope a local guy is a qualified bidder, but.
There's, they have a rated around here, it's like, it's-
So we're gonna attempt to do birch this fall, or are we talking next spring before the?
After the first of the year, I would think would be about the first,
We're not gonna have the money till the end of 24 anyway.
really about the first time we could really to get after it. We'll know if we're going into a good drawdown by then.
Let's get some information first. like it.
So wait, he'll talk to Guy, so as a backup plan. Right, do we want to also send one in for a power or an outlook, you know, outline D or something, just so we can. Maybe quickly do something to show everybody that, hey,
You mean have them look at it?
no, yeah, well, it said that permit, because those came back clean anyway.
Yeah.
Those should go right through, they're small. I mean, that's, I don't know if you did fire. How much of it would be. Usable or part of the process, I say, if we're thinking we're gonna take stuff from Peninsula and go up through Pyre.
Yeah.
If we get rid of all that muck, and we're back to hard bottom. But they build a ramp to get out of Pyre that, you know, maybe this winter. How much extra money are we spending to do that again, let's say.
Right, we're gonna have to put it back in shape, use it for boats again, and then rebuild it again
Right.
next year kind of thing.
But-
If you get a good draw.
But but some of that savings would come back as they won't have to dredge that to do.
This next
So I
one,
leave a mat on the river bottom, or on the lake bottom.
how many cubic yards did Par say it had?
110 or something?
No. I think it's gonna be a little more than that estimate.
Our was 412 yards.
That's it?
I know that's probably on average, might be deeper than 18 inches.
Going out from there and, cause when you're taking the samples, you can tell, you know, when you're screwing that auger down.
There's hard bottom when
When
you
it
get
went
out far, it
soft,
comes back
And
up.
then all of a sudden you hit hard bottom.
But you gotta get out past Scott Landing to get there.
And when you go out from there, the sediment actually starts pretty close in there. Probably about 25, 30 feet, and then rolls out for like 100 feet. So if you're gonna do a swath through
But
there,
it gets harder just to the north.
yeah, and then it gets hard north towards the shore,
Yep.
and it gets hard once you get out past it. So, and that's where you were walking, taking your readings out there where it's sand.
But those are super small projects that.
Yeah,
we
and
have
it's probably
the
gonna
money
be
to do
about,
those.
like you say, about 18 inches is all it is.
How many, docking sites are there?
6.
I think you get more. You get.
Well, you could
cleaned
actually,
up.
I was gonna say,
Rented private land after.
There's
Private
a
land
piece
on the
of, there's a lot there at the
Yeah,
south
you got
end.
all those cattails right now, those on our property.
That's somebody's property.
Their property's out in the water.
It's in the water.
It is.
Yeah, there's a lot.
And there's really not a good way to even see it.
It's there.
If you look at fetch, you
well, eventually they're gonna have to put a road there, right? If we're gonna use that, so. That seems like a logical place to try to get out as much as we
see,
can.
that's,
And if you wanted to make up, I mean. Could have put in a
Red
temporary
squares.
boat launch.
You're encompassing
Use it
all
as a
those
ramp.
cattails. There's no way we're using all that, we're not using all that area right now. I know they're not perfect, but
yeah, these polygons are off. there.
Nope.
you look at Tim's map,
That's pretty close. I mean,
That's pretty good.
yeah, I judge it by how skewed the right of way
The
is.
line at the house on the north side.
You know, it matches up where the fence line is, the right of way
That's not
matches
bad
up.
then.
I don't think you've got any boats past this point,
No, yeah, not there.
No, we don't.
but you could use all this.
Well, that's where you could build the road.
But that's also where you could add more dock space. I
Yeah.
mean, that's,
Or not disturb the road because of dock space.
right now, there's nothing. South,
There's one right beside the tree, and that's the last one.
yeah, that's way over here.
Well,
There's a
but-
drainage easement there, I think.
Is there, I know there's. In Ben's yard, they put that low grade pile there now.
Yeah.
there
I've
is-
been there since '03.
Well,
Been there a while.
I probably said, but
Here's the thing.
Uh, Gulf
It's
Estate.
only temporary, so you gotta give it up for a year or two.
Yeah.
Get better late. Yep. And you just leave those three spaces empty.
but there it is.
And then.
Maybe not 500.
Good either, is it?
You know, these,
This has a 25 foot going down to the water. This has.
Well, right there, right here's the edge of lot 329 is right here.
There's more dirt there than you think there's.
a lot more.
Most of the wooded tree line is not.
No, but that's all.
That's
lot.
so
But this is the
Blazers, right?
Yeah, Scotty is here.
Right, and then this is his 25 foot easement.
Yeah,
to the water.
panhandle to the water.
And then this right here looks like this is the.
329.
Goes to that
Yeah.
right there, so it's offset to the north.
North on PSP is what it is, like you run the airport to the north and military.
If that's the case, wherever that tree sits in there, we can find that, that's down in the cattails.
Cause your guys' sign is right about here.
Yeah, yep. And depending on where that tree is in all this, if we put a, move forward, this, we could put a permanent road in here and not have to remove it, because both roads are this way.
Well, that was what I was softly alluding to at the last meeting, is if you need another boat launch. If you can't get approval for the road, you just build a boat launch here, then, oh my God, is a road in the winter too.
It could be- just be a gravel launch,
Bingo.
and that would give you somewhere to, or yards for cars to park. I mean, there's not a lot of cars that go there, most of the boat launches, or most of the boat spaces there are people that live.
Right there.
They walk, but there, if you had that there, you could have a place to get off of that road. Like, albeit it's steep, so I'm not sure how that would work.
And it's mighty steep in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, this side especially here, it's
very
it
steep.
falls off there.
So that would be something, I think maybe we send that one in as well. I mean, not that it's a. You know, you're not affecting a large portion of the public. But it may lay the footwork, the groundwork, when you go to the next thing on a peninsula. As long as we're not spending money to tear it back up again. That's a small project you could fit in. But
How,
it not affect your budget.
How can you fill that ditch where it wouldn't collapse from the weight of vehicles?
I'd have to go out and look at that, then.
Cause it's pretty good.
I don't think I have any good photos of that area over there in the,
But I just know because going over there, posting on that marquee sign, you know?
yeah.
What ditch you talking
Not
about?
really a ditch, is it? It's just flat.
it's
stuff in the
a
water, right?
surveil.
It's. And then goes flat.
Do I
They don't
have
need it.
photos over there? I don't think I do, Southeast corner, I don't get anything but over there.
Almost.
Yeah, I got the view of the lake bottom from that location.
There, you're in the park.
I'm in the,
From where
I'm
that,
on the dock that's got the railings, taking the photo there.
from where your pointer is, it goes uphill from there in a hurry.
Yeah.
We'll just put stop signs on clubhouse,
there.
the truck. Make that a three-way stop sign to keep it.
Right,
So there's, if they got a three-way stop, and the truck's coming out of the lake, you just, they can go pull up that hill and go back.
So if you had to put a stop sign there. Sam, that could be rescinded, like
Yeah.
if you, freeway stop temporary.
Yeah, it's the intersection of a major and a major, so it's a TCL, we can do it there, where if we couldn't do it. We couldn't stop a major to give a local preference at an intersection, but major and major, we can stop everybody.
And it would be in a construction influence area, so we could do anything.
Yeah, I mean, as a straight TCL, it's a traffic control order, we can rescind it after, we can put a sunset of 90 days in it, we did that before.
Yep.
You know, those aren't. If we can change speed limit on the road.
You know, by the way.
That's mostly sand, isn't it?
Caution construction area.
All right,
Side by side here.
right where that pointer's at is about the best aerial I can get you.
Yeah, right there.
Well, you got sand around and you got muck right there.
That's yellow, starting yellow. You know, everything you saw that was green, then it was yellow, it's dried out.
Is that where you sink up to your waist?
Yeah, you can lose some boots in there. Where the water.
Oh, yeah, you gotta wear boots.
No wonder it's polluted.
Just go around those dots, you're in the muck.
Well, I'm gonna go out in the next few weeks while it's still sunny and we have good light. I'm gonna start getting photos of it now, particularly like Riviera where you got a bunch of weeds and crap so that we can start showing before and after that impacts, you know, thinking down the road to sell our story.
So did you want me to submit hard then?
I would.
It's good for 5 years in a small area, that's something you can, like you said, you're looking for a space to get your feet wet. That's the smallest place we got.
I would.
Well, you need to make a motion and
Well, I'll make a motion,
I'll second.
we're out for par.
But is par and birch over 10,000?
I don't think it.
we need to look at his map
He's speaking
tomorrow.
on that tonight.
Par is 400 right now, and Main Birch was around 95 or something.
99, 50 years.
I think I'm only 50 feet from shore, George was talking 100 feet. There it is.
Yeah.
I mean, we're trying to open it up from the boat ramp out, that I'm sure we can shave that down to fit it in
Right,
a
and
smaller
even,
area.
yeah,
We'd also find out if we want to lump them together then too.
phase 2,
Yeah.
3 years from now.
Yeah.
Just to make sure they both fit. Get enough.
So I had a motion,
I'd second.
John second, aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Then do anything for part two.
Correct.
Better hurry up on your wording.
Remember to raise your hand.
So the only public comments you've had, Jim, are just been about dredging spoils?
Yeah, those were the only two that had talked to us in the last couple of weeks was. Guy that wanted dirt for filling in for, you know, garage they're gonna build. And then guy from McGurk that. One know we're gonna start bidding.
There,
I just got a little question on, I know that the government gave Tim 40 grand. Our 15 or 17 that we had for dredging was saved a couple of over the years out of dues. And when I voted for the millage, I assumed that the millage was going to pick up all the thing, but I remember in liaison, we said that if we weren't going for a bond, if we're gonna do millage, and if the first year was a little shy, that both the village and the association would loan money to them and not give money to them. And we would be paid back when the money comes from the millage.
how much have we spent, George, so far on testing and everything?
I do not have the latest round of testing, but right now we spent about $9,000.
So you spent half of what that fund has.
But I don't have these 47 tests
Before
back.
that, then the fund was still there, but after the 8,000 was gone.
Well, why don't you send us that invoice and we'll pay for it? Out of the 40.
Well,
Well, the millage is supposed to.
In a perfect world, it would come back.
Association.
We have to
We
use
don't
this
have
money.
village money for a year.
Yeah, I know that, but when it does come in, I thought it was. That's all.
That's,
Well, I got.
you guys,
Everything else you gotta
you
do.
guys handle the finances for that, so you let the committee know it.
I was
Yeah,
hoping I get their invoice before this meeting, but I didn't.
so I guess when you get your, if you want to submit it so it's on record, whether you wait for the money to come in from the millage, or do you wanna ask him to consider using the money he had left over?
We've already committed. I mean,
We've already committed it. Like,
We've already said that.
if you
because
send us
this
that
is
bill, we will pay for it.
America
And you don't have to get
Restoration,
reimbursed and wait a year.
because we gotta give it back to the government if we don't burn it.
Yeah.
Oh,
When is that gonna go back?
We have to
Not
obligate
now,
by
it's
the end of
obligated.
24 and spend by the end of 26. So we've obligated it. We gotta spend it by the end of 26.
So then why don't you give Tim a copy of your invoice and
Yep.
it'll be, it'll be on the,
Well, I just assumed we were gonna use that money for things that wasn't covered in the dredging for restoration.
everything
You know what I'm
should,
saying?
should be covered. That's
Yeah.
that's the way it was worded. I mean,
Okay,
whether it's planting grass seed or topsoil, or if we knock over a park fence, we gotta put, that's why it said any and all items
or
related to
restoring
dredging.
Rivieras.
I think the less we commingle funds, the better.
Okay.
For just from a legal standpoint. Some of the concerns were always, you guys are a private organization, It's
So-
easier for us to just pay for the expense
So
up
going
front and
forward,
reimburse.
whatever invoice he gets related to it, you wanna
Send
have
it to
that
us and,
submitted to the process.
yeah, we can, I think that makes the most sense,
it does.
and then you can use that funds for whatever you feel is appropriate for the project,
Okay,
all
all right.
or use it elsewhere, put it in parks,
Well, it's already earmarked for the lake, so.
yeah, that's a board decision, though, you can change that.
Not anymore, since we got it back.
Since you got one back.
Well, we haven't spent it yet, but.
Okay, so George, just to round this out, you're gonna talk to Seven.
We'll talk to Polly,
I'm gonna try to get you updated cubic yards,
yes.
100 feet from shore. That's what we agreed.
Mhm.
Bill's gonna work on the purchasing. Do you wanna work it out, Todd? Anything to think about the RFQ? I mean, it's not gonna be for months
On,
now.
on some bidding stuff, I think I'd almost rather talk to some people.
Yeah.
And figure out what we really wanna do. As far as how it needs to be worded. And, if we're gonna come up with definitive amounts. Then we have to go
We're gonna
lump.
come up with budgeted numbers, say this is what we want you to price, I believe.
Lump sum contracts are pretty easy to do overall. We write our area, we write our amount. This
So
is it.
what happens if they dredge an area and it wasn't as deep as they thought? They only end up doing, let's say, 6,000
And
yards.
then we would have to have a proof system of knowing, we start here and it ended up here.
Obviously, that's gonna cost you more.
Well,
It
it's
is.
probably gonna average out because there's gonna be areas where it's gonna be 6 inches or a foot deeper than we thought. It would be.
Yeah, it should,
Mhm.
and it probably would be pretty costly to go back and remeasure it all to find out what they did. Cause if they pull it out wet and then it dries, the cubic yards is not
It's
gonna
gonna
be
be different.
And you can do a truck count as you pull it out, and that's the best thing you can do, really. And then that's as close as you can get, and Bill knows how truck counts work sometimes.
The way, for example, the way we.
Scrape run around all day and never dump it.
But yeah, cause the hydraulics broke.
It wouldn't dump.
You just say, get in it and drive it.
Like our contract we have with Malley for snow removal, we have a ceiling or actually a floor. That we're gonna pay a retainer for X amount of hours. And if we go over X amount of hours, then we go on an hourly rate, and that we came to that after looking at 20 years of data on how much we plow and that kind of stuff, and. Working with them to say, all right, we know it costs money to get the trucks, equip the trucks, insure them, fix them and all that stuff, We can't be dependent on a winter where you only plow 60 hours and don't make the money back to put, we understand that. We've got to work with you in this process.
Win some years, you lose some years.
Yeah, and I think we've come up with a reasonably fair solution that everybody's happy with, so. It's definitely doable, you just have to think through it and be creative.
I mean, we can come up with, say, if we have our lump sum bid, it can be as simple as a straight line.
Yeah.
Relationship, it just continues at that price, or you give us a different price for over or a different price for under.
So,
Yeah.
Because there would be something if there's less yards. You know, there would be, they'd want more money for less yards or less money for more yards, and that could be a way to look at it.
Fine. So do we wanna make a list of potential people we wanna have a soft meeting with and say, you know, water's gonna be down, let's meet November 22nd or whatever it would be, when we're hoping that the water's down quite a week, but then we want you guys to look at this as potential bidders. We have not put our bid package together, but they can look at it and they can have a suggestion or RFP that says, you know, RFQ says, I got questions on these three things.
Mhm.
RFI, sorry, that's what I'm for.
You talk about having them at this meeting or at.
I think it would be beneficial for them and for us both
Yeah, first part.
I'd say, let's do an open house at your guys' office.
to walk.
Well,
Walk across the street.
Yeah, we got the lake down, you got a building, so it's got heat if we're doing it in November. You know, have some, you know, some informational material, but have some, you know, and just say, look, here's what we're thinking, you know, what's your feedback, you know, what are the things that you guys are gonna be interested in? You know,
It gives them a chance to pre-inspect what they're gonna be bidding on, but it
Yeah.
also gives them a chance to ask questions, say, well, I see this being a potential problem.
Mhm.
How do you guys wanna handle that problem? So we can put that in writing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you may put this out for bids and just have endless questions. And you know what I mean? And
You're gonna get that no matter what happens, but if you get some input.
You can knock a lot of it
it might Get rid of a lot of.
Then you pin it down, so everybody's bidding on the same thing, that's all.
I'm kinda interested on the yardage. Who reports that to the state? If the state says, okay, 8,000 yards,
That's a question. you have to follow.
how do we
Yeah,
prove that?
and how do we even know that's
Right.
what we're doing? And yes, we are assuming a lot of things at this point to start, but the state's not gonna give us, if we have a 10,000 spot that we assume and we do 8,000, they're not gonna give us our money back for our 10 extra tests or X amount of extra tests.
Well, they're also not out here looking to see if we tell them we're gonna take out 8,000, if we tell them to take out 8,500. They're not gonna be out here with a.
I guess that would
We
be a
don't know
question
this.
for Guy Saban again, if there's a report back or something like that. That they're really looking at us that hard.
They don't have the people.
Well, but still, that's what it gets.
No, that's what we don't wanna play with though. So we do have to have some way to verify how much is taken out.
The truck
Is my
count,
point.
the truck count might be all you can do.
It might be.
Yeah,
That's an easy way to watch trucks that come out of that hole.
Yeah.
Going out there with the transit and trying to.
Right, but I mean, is there somebody just actually?
Yeah.
A clicker
Camera.
Yeah.
It's up to what,
or a camera?
of course, I guess you don't know what's inside the truck, but I mean.
Put it on a drone.
You could put a trail camera.
It goes back to.
Well, I just wanna know, so the state comes in and the guy says, well, prove to me it took only 8,500.
There's a process, I guarantee there's a process at the end of
The
the
state does it all the time, and that's, I've talked to Ben Burrows about looking for some specs, that MDOT uses. And,
They might go look at your pit and measure.
we have done that before, we've surveyed a pile. It's just after it's all done, we've surveyed the piles, and we agree it's this many yards.
Okay.
But that's a problem with our product in which we're doing,
Sure, 'cause it's
it's continuously shrinking, as soon as we set it down. You know.
But you can
and so
measure the bottom of that pit, you can measure.
You can measure it, and you can figure it out, and it can be done.
Norm, I would suggest for the meeting, something like December 6th, or that's a Wednesday. Just to make sure we get the lake down. And we'll know by then if it's gonna go. Or the 13th, which would be our board meeting too. If you do it at 4 o'clock with any of these vendors that want.
I'd probably make it earlier than that in December, if you
Yeah.
start at 5:30.
it'd be happy dark.
Right, it would be.
How do you want to get in the summer?
1 o'clock?
1 o'clock or so.
Yeah, do like one.
So we'll shoot for that, well, that's just say 6, because that'll be ahead of our meeting. And we can have a meeting here too, both after that meet and greet.
Okay.
But I mean, a short list is McGurk, Fisher, Malley, Savin. Who else do you think you wanna put on there? Isabella?
Brent Harge from Claire.
Yeah. Cotter.
Isabella Corp, I'm not sure, them guys are specialty, they're not huge dirt guys. They like doing pipeline.
Contractors?
Isabella Corp.
How about, Pat McGurk does actually.
Yeah, are they still around doing it?
And he's good.
And different vendors are gonna be interested in different projects.
Correct.
Right, no, that's right.
You know, some people might be interested in birch and small ones, and other stuff, but.
Yep, and then others in the big ones,
Yeah,
that's correct.
That'll help,
Give us that information.
will help us with our bid pack, saying if you want to bid all or none, or you wanna do, whatever you wanna bid. Give them the option to say, I can't, as a corporation, I can't bid this whole project, I just physically can't do it.
That's what
But I
you
would
got,
like
right,
these three
look
little
up
ones.
there,
I'd
that's
like
what
these
you got
more
right
than
around
those
you.
little ones. Where, Fisher, like I say, those are not worth my time, I don't want those at all.
Marty. What you got around you for contractors.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
Now, they all might be not interested, like you said, but
Well, like he said, though, just small outfit, but you wanna get some of it.
and
You take that.
some of it they'll take because
Yeah,
it's
they
kind of
will, yeah.
their downside.
Nice and easy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Some of them might take
or
it
if they want,
because it's
or
kind
if
of
that's
their
their
downside.
access, egress route,
Yep.
that could be, So do we wanna put that on your website, Tim, that we're thinking about doing a meet and greet on the sixth, or do you want one of us to think it would be a better idea to call it direct?
Could be a letter from the committee, couldn't it?
Yeah,
I
there you
think
go.
that'd be best. We need to come up with a list of contractors.
I'd put a letter on the website, and let everybody come who wants to.
You might get way too many guys.
no, I
Or we
would,
might get one.
I would have a sign up on our website,
So you're
but-
gonna,
give, have the Morning Sun do a story that this is where we're at in the project, and that be our forum to get people's attention.
There you go.
That'll work. And, we can direct mail the, 8 or 12, whatever we find, that, you want to.
I mean, most of the people here have connections somewhere,
Yeah.
places that, somebody that works
Yeah.
there, has worked there, whatever. You can let them know, but I think, like
Yeah.
you said, if you put a formal letter together saying, we'd like to have a preliminary meeting, pre-bid. Let's get this thing started, because that's, you'll get a lot of questions and a lot of things we didn't think about from the.
And I can, with our website, I can, we have the forums option, so just like when you're signing up for committees. We just have them fill out, this kind of stuff here, and when they hit submit, we each got a copy of it. Same thing.
Okay. 06 at 1 PM is roughly where thought process is for that at this point. I guess we'll know as it gets closer if it leaks going down or not going down.
I would not publicize the date yet, I would.
No, I'm just
Yeah.
internally, that's,
Yeah.
That's hold in,
That's what we're shooting at.
December 6th, 1 P.M.
could be completely empty and dry as a bone, or it could be
Yeah.
full. Could drop May and flood in July. Okay, anybody else have any comments, or any discussion they wanna talk about? No?
I learned not to talk anymore.
Be discouraged, Bill.
More's coming.
I can't do, the third Wednesday in the
We're in the army, we're.
month anymore.
Well, I couldn't be-
My wife's got a staff meeting that day, so.
So, the second is,
The second and fourth, those are.
Second will always be our meeting. Our association board meeting.
change it to a Thursday, is that opposed, is anybody opposed to a Thursday? Second Thursday, or the third Thursday?
I'm open.
So
My
if we look at-
employer doesn't care. Which day I take on.
Want you to take off 7 and be gone.
Third Thursday, the 20th, right?
Of October
On my calendar, right?
No, that's Friday, 19th.
19th.
We want to shoot for the 19th at 4 o'clock?
Is that November?
October.
I'll be gone that week.
Thank
Oh, we changed the whole meeting. What a mess of it.
Okay, Pablo.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Okay,
October 19th, post win.
yep. Okay, all right. It is 5:36, 5:39, we'll adjourn the meeting at 5:39 and be back.